Thanks
Okay,
for coming on.
bye.
Bye. Cool.
Well, I'm Phil.
And I'm Phil.
And welcome to the Phil and Phil Show, where we
So
talk
Sunday
about.
night-
Yep, it's Sunday and Sunday morning here in America, still America, at least for now.
Yep. Still the US.
It might be China at some point, but we're not there yet.
Oh, not there yet. So this is the Phil and Phil Show where Phil and
what do
I
we talk
sit and
about? What do we talk
talk
about
about-
the Phil and Phil Show?
we talk about stuff and we interview people. And tonight it's Phil and Phil, so we're gonna chat about
Raw food.
raw food, and I think we can chat a little bit about the Great Reset or the
Ooh.
Great Awakening.
Okay, I like that.
We can let's just bash that out a little bit, Phil. See what we come up with.
Okay.
And
Well, I got my rebounder. So this morning I did my Great Reset. I did 30 minutes of rebounding. I was like committed. I'm in a Tony
Wow.
Robbins workshop this weekend. So yesterday was all day with Tony, which is fun. And it's just like resetting your patterns. And I got up this morning. I'm like, I'm going to rebound. And I was like, Phil said 30 minutes. So I'm going to do 30 minutes. So I did 30 minutes on my rebounder. Reset all my cells. My cells are really happy. And yeah, it just feels good to do 30 minutes of rebounding. So, and Phil, but you have this same rebounder, right, Phil?
oh yeah, they are literally the best ever rebounders.
I think they're made in Germany, right, or something like that.
I think they're Swiss.
Oh, Swiss. Okay, yeah, Swiss. It's called Bellicon. If anyone's interested, we can give you a link. So,
Have you got a US link, Phil?
yes, I do.
Oh, fab. Yeah, and I've got a UK link.
Right. So yeah, what's great about them is it's got the bungee straps instead of the springs. So what's great about the Bellicon is it's like the show is sponsored by Bellicon today. So what's great about the way they design it is unlike like the cheap rebounders where if you bounce on it, your body kind of gets jarred around, so it's really bad for your spine. But with the way they design these is you get really clean bouncing. So it's much healthier for the spine than the cheap spring ones.
So also, Phil, I want to add to that. There's now lots of cheap bungee cord rebounders out there.
Ah, okay.
And so a friend of mine bought one, and it's only got, the ropes are like, the bungees are like that long, obviously twice that because they come out and around.
Mhm.
When you jump on it, it just goes,
Ah,
and then I was down with a friend of mine a few weeks ago doing some work, and she came out of she had a little rebounder, a bungee one, and I was like, oh, that's cool. She said, do you want it? She said, I'm not going to use it. It just, I do Tai Chi now, and it's just taking up space, and I haven't really got the space for it. So do you want it? And I was like, well, yeah, that'd be amazing. Because I've got I've got the 4-foot rebounder.
mm-hmm.
And even though it's great to bounce on, in the wintertime when you have it in a house, it takes up so much room.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this little bouncer, and I was like, yeah, great, because I can keep my old one, not my old one, my Bellicon, I can keep under shelter in the garden and use it in the garden, and the little one I can keep in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, yeah, that's really cool. So I bounced on it, and I was like, oh. Even though it's got bungees, it's oh. And then so I took all my cords off of my Bellicon and stuck it on and bounced on it, and it just went and I was like, oh. So then I got some stronger Bellicon one and put that on,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of it did it a bit, but it's just there is no comparison.
Right.
The mats are different, the frames are different. There really isn't any comparison. So
right.
You can. I think my friend said that one when it was new was about £125, £150, something like that.
Yeah, these are like 500 pounds, right, for the Bellicon.
Yeah, I think the little one, the meter one,
Mm-hmm.
which is 39 inches, is about 350.
Oh, so that's pretty good. So, I mean, I've had mine for 15 years. And the only thing I had to change was I've got the same mat, and the mat's getting a little bit soft, but it still works great. I've changed the straps once, but if you're using it a lot more, you might need to change the straps once a year. And the great thing about that is you can actually get different strengths. So if you like heavy, you can get, or you want to do more athletic work, you can get firmer straps. Whereas if you're really light, you can get soft straps. So it's very customizable like that.
Yeah, I just upgraded mine to I had strong on there before. I'm not very heavy, but you know, when you're around 120, 130 pounds and you want to bounce, you need strong straps.
Right.
But what I found when I was doing it a lot in the summer, and you know, I was bouncing a lot in the summer, as I got more aerobic and wanted to go higher, the bounce was too bounce. It went in too long. It came back out. So now I've found by putting the extra strong on, it's not as gentle because the other one kind of went down. This one goes like that. So you get a much more athletic bounce. So if
Right.
you want to do if you want to do routines and do the kind of and more kind of certain exercises, then I think you need a stronger bounce. You need stronger straps because on the ones that are good for your weight, kind of just for physical health, you know, for detoxification stuff, they're really soft. I mean, it's a beautiful bounce. It's a very different bounce, but you've still got a whole bounce. Whereas with the cheaper ones, you kind of have half a bounce. So I can't explain it. I was trying to explain it to a friend, you know, Pete that was on the other day that said hello. I was trying to explain to Pete the difference the other day, and I said, until you've been on a Bellicon, I can't explain to you the difference.
Right.
Because it's a feeling thing.
Totally. And then it's like what we ended the show last week with, or what you and I were talking about, is why rebounding is totally lymphatic. So it's the number one thing for health is a healthy lymphatic system, because that's where the gunk is, the junk. You know, it's almost like a sewer system. And if you don't clean it out, like then it's, you know, our body's not going to be efficient and energized. So by jumping on a rebounder or moving the body, walking, we get that lymphatic movement going, and it helps the body detoxify. So it's critical.
So Phil, just so you know,
yeah,
1 minute of rebounding gives you the same lymphatic movement as an hour of walking, I was once told.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
So Luca Ona says that it takes 10 minutes to warm your lymphatic system up. So your 10 minutes is your warm up, and anything after that, you're then really moving the lymph as opposed to just getting it moving.
Right. So yeah, that's why I was inspired this morning. I was like, I'm gonna do 30 minutes. Like I want to really get a good workout. I was kind of like, my energy was a little bit low. I was feeling a little lethargic. I was like, I'll put some podcast on and I'm gonna jump for 30 minutes. So I did, and I feel really good now. So.
Oh wow. So Dr. Morse, he's the person that I've come across really that distinguishes the difference between the blood and the lymph. So Dr. Morse says that the blood system is the carrier of nutrients. It isn't there to do the detoxification.
Okay.
So the blood dumps the toxins into the lymphatic system. Now, if you're not moving the lymphatic system through hot and cold showers, hot and cold therapy, exercise, yes, walking does it, cycling maybe a little bit, but you're not actually moving your arms when you're cycling. So, you know, you need to be creating this pump. The lymph hasn't got a pump. So if your lymph is stagnant, which most of ours is stagnant, and our kidneys are kind of a bit backed up and not working properly, then the blood's got nowhere to dump.
So where does the lymph then dump that? Because I thought it was the lymph went to the blood. Maybe I got those mixed up. So where does it go from there?
No, the blood goes to the lymph, and then the lymph uses kidneys, skin, and bowel, and I'm pretty sure the lungs, to then get rid of all your poison.
Ah, okay.
But I think there's not a lot of clarity in health at all, traditional or alternative, about the lymphatic system.
Well, yeah.
So you kind of have to get on the internet and really research it. And, you know, I think Dr. Robert Morse has definitely been the biggest influence with me on the lymphatic system and getting the lymph moving. But there's quite a lot of conflict of what it actually does, how it actually works. But it's, you know, it's the sewer system. It's the sewer system of the body. So if the blood can't dump the sewage, so basically it's like the blood's the kitchen and the lymph is the sewage. Well, if you can't get your waste from the kitchen into the sewage, you're in trouble.
Right.
And that's the best way I've ever heard it described.
Mm-hmm.
So then you then get congested lymph all up your digestive tract. So your whole digestive tract around the outside of it gets clogged with compacted lymphatics.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that's a real problem, because if you've got compacted lymph around in your blood vessels, well, not in your blood vessels, in your lymph vessels around your digestive tract, then you're going to lose absorption.
Right.
So actually the lymphatic system, again, in a health world, is not really talked about. It's crucial.
So, and that, you know, and then you talked about it being in like certain parts of the skin, but there's more lymph nodes in like underarms, under your knees, and then that's when you sweat and you like get stinky. That's part of the lymphatic system, like detoxing, right? Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. You know, what people talk about their glands, if someone's got an infection or a cold or anything, their glands come up.
And that's
So
the
these,
lymphatic system, right?
yeah,
The tonsils trying to detox. So when that gets inflamed, that's a sign that, and that happens early on in a child's life sometimes. It's like, that's a sign, oh my God, like maybe we should be like, why did this child's lymph get so inflamed? But we don't. We go, oh, tonsils, something wrong with them. We need to take them out, or, you know, give them anti-inflammatories, which are given out like, I was listening to somebody, we give them out like Smarties, but that's the body's natural response to dealing with stuff. So we should instead be looking at, like, well, why the heck are the tonsils so inflamed? Like, what caused this? Was it the child's diet? Were they exposed to toxins? Were they recently vaccinated? Were they given medications? Why is suddenly the child's lymphatic system overreacting, specifically in the tonsils and the throat, you know?
yeah. So you've got lymph vessels, which are like blood vessels, and then you've got lymph nodes, which are like the dumps. They're like little dumpsters. And what happens with those is they get congested and infected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's then the problem. So, yeah, moving the lymph is critical. So, as I was saying, deep breathing, hot and cold therapy, rebounding, exercise in general, but definitely the rebounder is the number one. Swimming's very good.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, lots of people, if they swim, they've got to deal with chlorine. So, you know, chlorine is a really toxic, nasty gas. So if you're going to swim, actually, Louise was watching now. We were talking about it. One of the new trends in England now is wild water swimming.
Yeah, I was just telling Susan about that the other day. Like, they just go in like the lakes and.
Except they feel the new class of that. They have their. She was filming me on it today. They have their wetsuits.
Right.
So they have their thermally. They have dry suits, so they can't ever get cold.
Okay.
They have little hats on.
Mm-hmm.
They've even got waterproof pouches to put their mobile phone in, and then they put their mobile phone in a pocket in their suit.
Oh God.
And then they've got little shoes on to do their cold water therapy.
That's not really cold water therapy at that point.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. They're not doing cold water therapy.
Yeah.
They're doing.
I can understand like doing something maybe for your hands and feet, like that kind of makes sense because those extremities. But like a wetsuit would make sense because you'd still get a little bit cold with the wetsuit, but a dry suit, like, and I get it. It's like it's fun, but like you're not really getting the cold therapy with that. So.
I was tempted today. Our river's up today, Phil, and it's we've got a little bit of flooding. And I thought, oh, that's tempting. I stuck my hand in it. Whoa, man, that's too cold for me.
So like these are all things that, so like we talked about this last week. Again, we're coming on to lymph again. These things like the hot cold therapy, like you do a sauna or you do a hot tub and then you jump in cold water. Again, it's stimulating that lymphatic movement. So it's stimulating the lymph to dump toxins into the system.
Yeah, it's just stimulating it. It's stimulating it to move, and that's the crucial thing is you've got to get it moving, so it can get rid of its toxins. So it hasn't got a pump. Apart from, I remember somewhere that actually the diaphragm is potentially the pump for the lymphatic system.
That would make sense because when we do deep breathing, which is connected to the lungs, we can detoxify a lot. We can have bad breath. You know, that's part of the detoxification system. So it makes sense that the diaphragm has some sort of process as part of this. But if we're very sedentary, think of it like when people are in hospitals and lying in bed permanently, they get bed sores. Like, and that's probably, I mean, my assumption is that's where that body's person is resting on a certain spot for an extended period of time. That is usually where the bed sores are, and it's like, well, that's probably because you're blocking the lymph from draining from naturally moving, and especially if you're in that sedentary position.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Phil, because most people think it's stagnant blood, but of course you're only going to get stagnant blood, I would suggest, if you've got a stagnant lymph.
Right.
Because you've got the heart to pump the blood around. I know you need to oxygenate it by exercising to get oxygen into the blood, but the lymph's crucial, and you know, we need a whole lot more research done on it.
Well, anything that restricts lymph, so then we talk about like the underwired bras or the very tight bras that women wear, or even like in the past, like the corsets, like anything that's restricting the body is gonna cause toxic accumulation. So especially like for the bras, like that's what, you know, connected potentially to breast cancer, because you're restricting that lymphatic movement, so then toxins accumulate in that area. And what is cancer is the body going, oh, there's these toxins here, let's put them into this encapsulate them and put them into this tumor, you know.
Yes, so the other thing about underwire bras is, of course, then we start to get into EMFs.
Right.
And it then turns the woman's body into an EMF transmitter, because you've got that metal, and of course it's in the breast where you've got all your lymph, where they've got their lymph nodes,
yeah,
breast full of lymph nodes, and also, of course, what you're doing is you're cross wiring the body.
Ooh, wow. It's got to have some serious electrical messing with your whole electrical system there.
Yeah, so that's gonna, you know, that's another level of impact. So we've got EMFs, we've got lymph reduction in movement with underwire bras, and then we've also got the fact that it's crossing.
And some women wear the cell phone in their cleavage. You know, it's like.
I know, and I've seen women that they lift their bra up and stick their phone down the side of their boob, which is where massive amounts of lymph is. It's all connected to the armpit.
Right.
So, man, this is trouble. It's big, and you know, I know a few people talk about mobile phones and cellular health. On the whole, though, not enough people talk about it. So, you know, especially at night, folks, get your phone away from you. You know, get your phone. I put mine at the other end of the bedroom, put it on flight mode.
Right.
Yeah, there's again, there's so much to talk about mobile phones, isn't there? I mean, that's another whole. I've just been and bought a Faraday cage for my mobile phone. So a Faraday cage stops signals coming in and signals coming out. So it's it's the pouch that makes the phone inert, and it's all in there. So that's pretty cool.
Right. So you mentioning that, like, we know very little about the lymphatic system, and like for a lot of time they were saying that there's no lymphatic system to the head, and then in the last like year or something they discovered that there is a minor lymphatic system that goes around the head, which makes sense because the brain, you know, needs to detox too. So
that makes perfect sense. And instead of calling it the lymph system, because of course it's totally separate to the body lymph system, they've called it the glymph system.
Interesting.
Because they're, you know, it's separate, right? It's not the same system as the body system. It's a separate system because it goes around the head, so it's impossible that they could be interconnected and be the same thing, right? I mean that would be too ridiculous for them to be
Right.
the same lymphatic system that are connected and do the same job.
So just talking about EMFs, a lot of people theorize that, you know, the 5G is potentially causing, because it's at the microwave frequency, it's potentially linked to the health effects that we're seeing in today's world in terms of respiratory issues, because it's at the same frequency as I think it's the oxygen absorption molecule. I would just wonder how these things, and we'll need more research, how is this connected to the lymphatic system and how it's affecting the different electrical systems in the body. It's just, I don't, there's a lot of unknowns there, but.
I'm sure on a level it's all known.
Right. Oh yeah.
It's just, you know, these people that create these amazing technologies, amazing technology. The thing that we've got to remember is they're not stupid and they're not ignorant.
Right.
You know, they're incredibly intelligent people.
Right.
And I think probably a lot of the scientists that are involved as well, because, you know, I know lots of people that love the idea of 5G, and I'm sure lots of the scientists that are doing it because it's a really exciting development.
Right.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure there's lots of innocent people in that field, even though we know that, you know, 4G is bad enough on health. You know, you can see the research if you do someone with a live blood analysis, or dark field, whatever people want to call it, you know, dark field microscopy, live blood. Then you put them on a mobile phone for an hour and then take their blood again. It's completely different blood. It's completely different. So we know from to me, it's research. Lots of scientists will say it's woo-woo research, but actually it shows. It shows a difference on the blood.
Right.
So we know 4G does it, and, you know, 4G I think is about well, Wi-Fi is 12,000 megahertz, so 4G is in somewhere in that field. And then 5G, of course, is 60,000.
Up to, right? I mean, it's not all there yet, but they've started it out at like what, 8 gigahertz or something. So 8,000 maybe. Up to, so it goes from 8. So 8 is the starting up to 60,000. So there's a range there, I think.
Yeah, and that's 8 gigahertz as opposed to 12,000 megahertz.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, it's just like, wow.
Yeah. And people say, well, it's just invisible things. It's like, well, you know, your body is working on electricity and those are invisible, but they have an effect on our body. You know, we can restart the heart using paddles or using electricity. It's a shock of electricity. We can't see electricity, but if you stick your fingers in a socket, it's not going to do so good. So.
No, that really hurts, Phil.
Yeah, once I did stick my fingers in a lampshade thing. That was not fun. It was scary, but I was okay. But it scared me. It's because I was like, oh, this light's not turning on, and I was trying to see if there was a bulb there, and there wasn't, and I touched the thing and zapped me. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah. But it was more like scary. So.
It's also messing up bird migration.
Right.
You know, not even 5G, but 4G, 3G. It's messing up the bees. It's messing up bird migration. You know, it's a really big deal. You know, I was listening to a regenerative agricultural show today. There's a big 9-day thing going on at the moment about sea and how's the seas dying. And apparently, what they're doing to find gas and oil, I think it is, under the sea, is they're using sonar. Now, I'm not going to get this totally right, but apart from the fact it was completely messing with sea creatures' ability to navigate, because of course they navigate with sonar,
especially the
it,
dolphins, right?
it creates so much heat that it explodes cells and things like that. So it
Wow.
so they're killing the krill, they're killing the phytoplankton, they're killing they it the sonic, because apparently they do it like for a year or something. And
Well, we're
you
seeing
know,
these effects throughout nature on, like, the bees. I mean, we know that part of the bee die-off is colony collapse disorder is connected to pesticides, but it's also connected to increase in EMF frequencies, increasing transmitters, because they use electrical fields to navigate, and they're not able to navigate and get back home. Same with the bats, with birds, with these creatures that use frequencies to navigate and get around and homing. I think I've heard somewhere that homing pigeons are having a harder time.
yes, I heard that, Phil.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, so that's on the animals, and they're out in nature. So think of us, and people go, well, one cell phone, it's not going to have an effect, but it's the saturation point. You got the cell phone, you got the tower, you got your Wi-Fi transmitter, you got the frequency coming off your microwave or your computer, and it's like this full-on saturation point. Especially if you're in a home where there is a Wi-Fi transmitter and there's your cell phone, or you're in a car that's got Wi-Fi enabled car with the cell phone. And like you talking about the Faraday cage, we become inside the Faraday cage. So those frequencies are enhanced in the car when you're talking on the cell phone in the car with the car Wi-Fi activated.
so here's another one then, Phil, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a little prediction now.
Yeah.
That electric cars are gonna be catastrophic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I don't know this for sure, but I think that electric cars are going to create a Faraday cage, and I think that again, people that what I'd love to do is get an electric car with someone that's happy to drive it, and do a dark field microscopy, live blood on their blood after they've not been in it for say a day or two, then do their blood test, then get them to drive it for an hour,
Right.
and then do another live blood analysis test on them to see their blood, because that would show whether I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, I think the way to do it, like you say, is to reset them. I think we need something like you stand on the earth in the woods or something, like see where the blood is at after that, and then like we almost need like the control study to see. But I agree, and I think they just announce that they're gonna phase into electric cars in the UK like 2030 or something, where they're not gonna sell them anymore.
2030, they're going to produce no more diesel or petrol cars. But the thing is, the other thing I found out as well, which is really interesting, they can't recycle the batteries.
They can't recycle them?
No.
Wow. Oh, you went quiet. I don't hear you. What happened?
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
there you are.
We're back.
You're back, yeah. It was just a
So
second.
you heard the bit about the thing I was saying about batteries cannot be recycled,
Yes.
and they have to. They just go into landfill.
Wow.
And I was reading something else where at the moment they're using child slave labor to get the metals out in Africa and other countries. They use children to actually that was the metals for the mobile phones. I think the co-op are now doing a fair trade mobile phone, so they're not using any slave labor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what on earth are we doing using slave labor? What is the
Still, in today's time, it's ridiculous.
2020?
Yeah.
Child slave labor. It is diabolical.
So, like, and then, but like, it's kind of just odd to me that people don't make that connection. That it's like, oh well, it's the end use, like it's a zero emission free vehicle, but we got to think of the full life story of that. How did it get to be a free emission free vehicle? Where did the electricity come from to power that vehicle? How did you produce the batteries or the microchips to
The tires.
I mean, that's the whole thing is a computer. Or the what?
Or the tires.
Or the tires, anything like that. I mean, right now we're focused on the electric aspect of it, but it's like it goes all the way through to, you know, is it really good for the environment and good for the human body? And the answer is clearly no to me, that these are dangerous.
It's really clear, right, Phil? Hydrogen technology.
Yeah.
That's hydrogen technology. The waste from hydrogen is oxygen. Oh, what a shame. We're going to burn hydrogen and pump out oxygen. Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why isn't hydrogen, you know, we've got hydrogen engines. My God, Victor Schauberger built one for Hitler in 1938, I think.
Wow.
And he was going to power his U-boats on water engines. You know, they've been around for 70 years. Mm-hmm. And yet we're doing batteries, which is such a disaster.
Right. And even with like the petrol engine, the reason we're phasing this out, and like, sure, they have other chemicals and other pollutants. And I imagine we could probably put better filters on cars so those things didn't go into the environment. But a lot of it's focused on the whole carbon thing. Like, oh, carbon is bad. Carbon dioxide is bad. Like, that's the focus. And it's like, this is why we're getting it. It's because everybody's terrified. This is being rammed down our throats. That carbon dioxide is bad for the environment. It's like, no, carbon dioxide is fine. You know, there's no problem.
Well, isn't carbon dioxide crucial?
It's crucial for the trees. So we actually have seen reduction in carbon dioxide, and trees and plant life flourish with a higher carbon dioxide content. And they actually, I think in like certain greenhouse environments, they actually put extra carbon dioxide to help the plants grow. So yeah, it's critical for life on the planet is carbon dioxide. And it's like we see in society the reversal of things. And this carbon dioxide is one of those things. Instead of going, let's focus on the pollutive aspects of industry, like they're going to focus on carbon dioxide. It's like it's backwards, it's upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, if we've got too much CO2, it isn't rocket science. Plant more trees, plant more plants, clean out the oceans, and get all the algae and stuff going back in the oceans that actually use CO2. I think the ocean is the biggest consumer of CO2 and the biggest creator of oxygen. So why are we worried about it?
Right.
Once again, we're looking at, you know, we're biting the hand that feeds us.
Yeah.
Actually, we need to be looking at not necessarily blaming, but what, and once again as well, humans are being blamed. So
I think what it is, I think it's a distraction. It's a distraction from what the real problem is. It's like, hey, look over here, look at carbon dioxide. And they did the same with ozone. Look at ozone. So ozone is nature's detoxifier. Like you'll find high ozone in cities, in smog environments, but the ozone isn't really the problem. Ozone is there because it's binding with the pollutants. It's the pollutants that the problem, not the ozone necessarily. So, and you can smell ozone like here after, it's amazing in the desert, after the rain, you smell that ozone. It's really amazing. And of course we don't want to be in artificially high ozone environments. Like we have ozone generators at the manufacturing facility. We run them overnight because, you know, high amount of ozone, you can kill bacteria and stuff like that. So you just, you know, great. That's nature's way of doing it. But in small amounts, it's good. It's one of those good things. And the same with carbon dioxide. We need that balance. But it's a distraction from the real pollutants. Like the ozone is a distraction from the smog. Why is there smog? Because of industry and unhealthy city environments with high positive ions and the cars or the brake dust and all these things that accumulate in city environments. And if we focused on the real issue, then like you said, we'd be planting trees everywhere. And we can do this. That's what the change we want to see. We'd be doing regenerative agriculture. We'd be like, okay, let's build the soil. Let's, you know, focus on building healthy soil with, you know, healthy microorganisms and putting minerals back into the soil and planting trees everywhere. So the obvious solution. We spent all of this time arguing about carbon dioxide. instead of going, oh, we need to heal the earth. We need to regenerate the soil and plant trees and plant gardens everywhere. So it's my rant, my soapbox.
Yeah, no, that's cool, Phil, because it's like medicine, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, your tonsils are inflamed, so your tonsils are the problem. So let's
Right.
cut the problems out. Let's get rid of the problem. It's the tonsils. Cut the tonsils out. Give them antibiotics, whatever. So, you know, and it's the same with the CO2, the ozone. It's the same, whatever it is. They're looking at the problem, but the problem, it's not a problem. It's a symptom. It's a symptom of the problem. And what we've got to do, electric cars are not the solution.
Right.
Electric cars are going to be another, you know, I remember when I was a kid, right? We had petrol cars and we had diesel Land Rovers and tractors, agricultural vehicles with diesel, and they stank. You know, you could chew it, you could taste it. It was horrible.
Right.
And then they said, oh, we've got this wrong. Petrol's the baddie, diesel's the goodie. And I remember saying, I wasn't very old when all that happened. And I said, but we know that that's not right. We know that diesel's stinky, smelly, inefficient stuff. So how all of a sudden is it better than petrol? Then a couple of years ago, especially in England, they went through this thing and said, oh, we got it wrong. Petrol was way better than diesel. We got it wrong. Diesel's a real pollutant. The particulates are so big we can't filter them out, and they get into the lungs and create havoc. Yeah, well, we knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that at 10 years old it was going to be a problem.
Right.
It didn't make sense. And, you know, the same now. So we went from petrol to diesel, diesel to petrol, and now petrol to electric. No, electric's going to be a disaster.
Right.
It's going to be another planetary disaster. You know, and everyone's going, get rid of cars. We don't need, everyone's saying we're overpopulated and human beings are the problem. No, they're not. We're not overpopulated and human beings are not the problem. Human beings are the solution. It's just we're being programmed and brainwashed to believe that we are the problem. And actually, we're not the problem.
Right.
We're not making the cars. We're not making the fuels. We're not making the shit. Yes, we're using it, but we keep getting told, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad.
I mean, yeah.
And on the whole, human beings, on the whole, do their best to do what they think with the information they've got at that moment in time, the best they can. But if we've got shit products and shit information, we can only ever make a shit choice.
Mm-hmm.
Until we go, well, actually, there has to be another way of doing this, and that's where you and I have come to, because it's like, but we know there's better solutions.
Right.
And human beings are not the problem.
Right. But because the controlling people have suppressed, like, there's so many solutions out there for everything that we're dealing with, like for energy, for vehicles, for moving water, for healing the body. Yet these things have been suppressed and dumbed down. Like, you can't even talk about freaking vitamin C these days. You know, it's like.
Yeah, how crazy is that? You know, Linus Pauling got a Nobel Prize for his work on vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just. So does that mean does that mean now then that Nobel Prize is null and void?
Right.
If we're not allowed to talk about a Nobel Prize winners
discovery. Discovery.
Discovery, his work, you know.
Yeah.
If we're not allowed to talk about his life's work, why the bloody hell did they give him a Nobel Prize? And if vitamin C hasn't been proven to work, why did he get a Nobel Prize? Just nonsense.
Right.
That's the propaganda, fake news of our normal media channels, I'm afraid to say. That's my
you were talking about medicine earlier, and it reminded me, I've been listening to Dr. Thomas Cohen, and he's talking about every reaction, any negative reaction that the body has is usually the body trying to detoxify in some way, or trying to come back into balance, detoxify, balance. And so, you know, you have an accident or something and the body gets inflamed. So the doctors immediately throw anti-inflammatories at it. But that's the body trying to heal. It's doing what it needs to do. and these are the only options we get, instead of like, okay, well, maybe you need to, jump on a rebounder to get the lymphatic system going to help drain that toxin that's being created. But instead we throw drugs at it. We throw painkillers and anti-inflammatories and all of these things that just mask the symptoms, which is what medicine is. It's the snake oil of today's world, and it's one of those reversals again, whereas modern medicine is the snake oil and natural medicine is the real medicine, or natural lifestyle and herbs and healthy eating is the real answer.
Yeah, nature's look to nature, my friends. Nature's always the answer, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, what does an animal do when it breaks its leg? If it doesn't make, if it's able to, it will go and hide. It will hide and go into, a semi-hibernation on the earth and sleep and rest
And
and
fast.
heal itself. It doesn't go, oh, let me find some anti-inflammatory drugs.
So, again, Dr. Moore says this really beautifully as well. Every disease state bit is acid. And if you've got an acid problem, which is what an illness, a disease, an inflammation is, an acid problem, why would you flood the body with more acid, which is what drugs, pharmaceuticals and drugs are acid, right? They have an acid reaction in the body, which means they leave acid. So fruits and vegetables leave an alkali ash. So even, an amazing thing is, like, when lemons go in, people go, but how can lemons be alkalizing? Because they're acid. It isn't that the acid's alkalizing, it's that the residue that's left is alkaline. And that's what we've got to remember. You get an alkaline ash and an acid ash. And if you've got any kind of a pain or an illness, then you've got acid in that particular area. And then what the acid in that area is showing you is you've got a weakness in that area of your body, whether it's your lymph system, whether it's your lung system, whether it's your glandular system, whether it's the endocrine system. From what the symptom is, what the weakness is. So we got to look at weaknesses, acid and weakness.
So let's talk about another reversal, is the whole germ theory, the germ theory of disease, or the viral theory of disease. What's happened in that situation, we see more bacteria, and it's actually the bacteria is trying to help heal the body. So it's like the swamp kind of thing. Like the flies don't make the swamp attracts the flies, kind of thing. It's like the thing they do with they do a maggot therapy where they put maggots on wounds, and the maggots will eat up only the dead material. So the whole germ theory of disease is totally flawed.
Totally flawed. Yeah. So again, it's like, if our body isn't working properly, I mean, I think Gabriel Cousens writes it great in his book Conscious Eating.
Conscious
Eating. He calls it the composting button.
Oh, that's in Rainbow Green Live Food Cuisine.
Isn't it in both?
No. Oh. It might be in Spiritual Nutrition, but Conscious Eating was written before Rainbow Green.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to look that up, Phil.
Sorry, don't mean to correct you there, but I did live with the guy for a while, so
I know exactly. It's just I thought I was reading Conscious Eating when I was in.
He did have a section in Spiritual Nutrition on it. Yeah, so
I'm gonna look it up, Phil.
I know you are, but I know I'm right here.
I'm sure I know you're probably right, but I have to check that. Okay. I'm not going mental. I am going mental. Right. Yeah. So once we start to compost, once we have putrefaction, once we have fermentation going on in the body, it's the breeding ground, right? So all these things come in to clean us up. Right. So something that's really interesting with Candida, right, Phil? Candida, as people call it, is Candida is actually an adrenal issue. Did you know that?
Ah, no. Tell me
So
more.
what happens is the adrenals regulate sugar. So if the adrenals are down, then the sugar isn't getting regulated properly. So if the adrenals can't regulate the sugar properly, something has to control the sugar.
Interesting.
So Candida albicans comes out and creates an overgrowth. It's there. It's always there. It
Right.
creates overgrowth, and everyone wants to kill the
Right.
candida. But what the candida's saying actually is, hey guys, your adrenals are down, your sugar system's out of whack, sort it out. That's
And,
actually what
and it's trying to do a job, but then we try and kill it more, and then it produces more, or we eat in
it's trying to
diets that just feed it, and it's
growing us.
yeah. Hmm.
All of these, a bacterial infection is normally going to be stagnant lymphatics.
Hmm. Yeah.
Unless of course you consume cowpus, then it's going to be a cowpus issue.
Right. And then so you look back at all of these epidemics and diseases that are said to be caused by the bacteria or the virus or a germ, but when you actually look at them, they were kind of caused by kind of three things. One, very bad sanitation. So they were in areas where people were peeing and pooping on the streets, eating really bad diets, living really close quarters, not living in a healthy environments. So that was one aspect of it. Two was in these situations they were given vaccines, and the vaccines actually created a toxic reaction in the body. So smallpox is a great example of that. The smallpox epidemic was actually caused by the smallpox vaccine. And you can look at the historical research on that, but that's suppressed from the mainstream. But when you start reading into this stuff, and I'm reading this book, Virus Mania, and like that, like it's pretty clear that in the history that we're not told, these are the facts. And then the other aspect of it, and again, it's like this distraction. It's like, oh, it's the microbe, it's the virus. Another one is related to polio. Polio is clearly linked to the pesticides that were being used at the time. Lead arsenate was one, and then the other one was DDT. So these two chemicals that were used in the environment were actually the cause of the polio epidemic. And then again, they started vaccinating people, and that continued that situation. And how they proved that polio was an infectious disease, and this is the saddest, most awful story, is they actually took the brain of a monkey that was infected or sick, and they injected it into the brains of other monkeys and said, oh, this causes the disease, because this is connected to Louis Pasteur, because they weren't able to prove it other ways. They weren't able to, get the monkeys to breathe on each other, or even taking these bacteria orally, it wasn't passing on the disease. So the whole infectious disease theory is totally flawed. So I think we need a whole summit on this, like a whole summit on the truth about infectious disease. I think it would be a fascinating project.
Another one, Phil, was really interesting, right? I was listening again to this thing about Regen Ag and talking about the oceans, and this guy cited Paul Stamets, and Paul Stamets has got a mushroom complex that you feed to your plants. And what they found was, as the plants got strong, they didn't get attacked by any predators.
Right.
Because, so they were saying one in, like, yeah, he wasn't sure about the plant. He thought it was broccoli, but he wasn't sure, the guy that was talking today. And he said, what happens is the weaker one didn't produce much sugar, so they chomped away on it really happily. But the strong one produced a lot of sugar. The sugar in the microbes, in the insects and things that attacked it, created fermentation, killed them.
Wow.
Interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, that point, we clearly know that like a healthier plant is going to thrive, on a healthy soil. But these plants that are grown in monoculture with no help from the soil, because the soil is dead, there's no microorganisms to create balance, it ends up being the bad microorganisms, whatever that means, are the ones that they're just going to take that plant down. And what do? Is they use more pesticides, they use more herbicides, they use more chemicals. And it's the same with the body. The human body is the same.
And do you know what else with farming, Phil? Ploughing. Do you know what ploughing releases?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide, because when you don't introduce oxygen into the soil, you get carbon.
Right.
Something I've only learned recently. So what's supposed to happen is the worms and all the microbes come up, bring the oxygen back down into the soil. But once you till the soil, once you till it and you open it up, you release all the carbon. When the carbon interacts with the oxygen, it becomes carbon dioxide. So actually, till farming is the #1 creator of carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I mean, just to make, I'm trying to think of a funny joke. I'm just like, there's not like, yeah.
You know, the bullshit thing with the vegan movement is they're blaming it on cows and the cows fart, and it isn't the cows farting, guys. It's the farmers turning the soil. Now that sounds ridiculous, right?
Well, no, it doesn't. To me, it's like, think about it. Like, again, like, let's look to nature. Like, that's a distraction, right? So let's look to nature. There's no plow in the rainforest, like, no. or in a woodland forest, or in a woodland, or anywhere. Like, there's no plow there, because but that the trees still break down and they go back into the earth. Like, that cycle, that natural cycle is there, and in a healthy way. The soil is built, the microorganisms do their work, the worms do their work, the different insects do the work, the mushrooms do their work. You go in a wild forest and look at them, the mushrooms are growing, you see mold in this place, and you see the leaves breaking down. Like, you see that all of that is part of the interaction of the environment. Whereas in the modern farm, there's like one plant to each area, and like it's like those plants are unhealthy. So
it's fascinating. And also he was talking about in one I watched last night. I watched a bit of a David Wolf one. Like, David Wolf's actually really interesting when he talks about regenerative agriculture. Mm-hmm. He's fascinating, actually. I didn't realize. And this other guy was talking about the fact when you use steel in the ground, it actually no, I can't remember because it's but it actually let's just say that it creates disharmony.
Right.
So iron creates disharmony, whereas copper, so bronze tools create harmony. Mm-hmm. So iron, steel is destructive. Bronze, copper is regenerative.
I think it goes back to Schauberger. Maybe Victor Schauberger talked about that.
Schauberger talked a lot about all that, yeah. So again, when was he? The 1920s, wasn't he?
Yeah. And how did they learn that? They just observed nature. And like, we're more and more getting away from nature, so we're not observing it, so we're in our heads, and we're not focused on the thing. But get outside of that, go for a walk, put your feet on the earth, start to observe nature and be quiet. I think I was listening to some podcast yesterday, and it was like, you know, you're struggling with something, go for a walk, be on your own, don't, you turn off your phone and be quiet and just listen and just be quiet, and nature will guide you. And I think we're listening to all of these voices and all of this stuff, and yeah, we can reconnect, and then the answers will come very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. And that, that's the thing. Listening to go talk to the trees.
Yeah.
When I was doing the shamanic training, we had a practice, and it was called "Go Preach to the Trees." So you go and you find a tree that that you felt attracted to for whatever reason, and you would just share with the tree all of your problems, thoughts, whatever. You just share with the tree, and then be quiet.
I love that.
And then listen back and listen for the feedback.
It reminds me of a story. I just heard this week. Dr. Cohen was talking about how the Native Americans were telling the colonizers, we talk to the trees. And these colonizers who were chopping down the trees and destroying the environment, they're like, no, that you're just you guys are ridiculous. It's like, well, you know, if you were chopping down the trees and you sat with the tree, you'd probably hear the tree talking to you. But we're disconnected from nature, so we don't hear the trees.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we don't hear the trees, we don't hear the birds, we don't hear the grass, we don't hear the flowers or the plants. You know, we're not giving thanks for what we're picking or using or utilizing, and then there's no give back. You know, if you look at modern agriculture, there is no give back.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just take, 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 and then we'll give you a bit of plastic fertilizer.
Like, or petroleum extract fertilizer, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, shamanic teacher friend of mine said to me once, she was saying, Phil, it's really interesting. Most people take what you don't want to give and give what you don't want. So someone will take something that you don't really want to give, and in return they'll give you something that you don't really want. And farming's the same, right? It takes all of the harvest that the land doesn't really want to give, and then in return gives it plastic fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes what the ground doesn't actually want to give and gives back what the ground doesn't want. And that, you know, that's how we live at the moment, isn't it? It's all upside down, inside out, and back to front.
Which ties into the Great Reset, which I wanted to talk about. In the, you know, the Great Reset is like, hey, we're gonna have this great technology that you can, you know, put a little chip in your head and you'll be able to see the drop down menus, and you'll be enhanced with technology, and, you know, the whole transhumanism agenda, and you'll be free of disease, and you'll be able to connect to the internet all the time, and you'll have the vast wealth of the, you know, the library of humanity in your brain, and you'll be able to access it immediately, and you'll be driving your, you know, self-driving car. And it's like, if you think about it, it's like, I don't really want that. Like the wisdom in nature and the matrix of, you know, the internet of the microzymas in the soil, and we don't even know about this. Like, we're so disconnected. We don't know about the mushrooms and the microzymas and the interaction and the magic of the forest. We're excited about this arbitrary thing that's going to take away humanity in the Great Reset. And the great power, like in nature, is so much more powerful, you know. And I think people are waking up, and it's just a good thing. So they're like, we don't want this, you know.
Well, what we've realized is that actually it isn't better than what we had.
Right.
You know, I think people are now realizing that, yes, the mobile phone's convenient, yes, the computer's convenient, yes, this is convenient, yes, the microwave's great, yes, 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 yes. But actually, people are realizing they're getting tireder, they're getting sicker, they're getting more disconnected, there's more separation. You know, and I think it's being sold on the fact that we will become connected.
Right.
You know, everybody, I think, Phil, is craving connection,
Right.
connection to self, connection to others, connection to nature, connection to God. Everyone's craving this connection in this totally disconnected time. And David Icke says it beautifully, doesn't he? Problem, action, solution.
Yeah.
So we've got a problem, which is we're totally disconnected from ourselves, each other, nature, and God. Or, not to disrespect any, but whatever you choose is your
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
your spiritual thing. I'm just calling it God because we all understand that, whether we like that or not. That's by the by, really. It's just a spirit, Wakantonka, great spirit. Actually, what people are craving, I think, from my own journey, is connection to spirit, nature, God,
Each
self.
other. Heart to heart connection.
So people are craving connection, and so the problem has been around, of course. Education has been all about division. Medicine's all about division. The telephone is all about division.
Mm-hmm.
The television's all about division. Mobile phones, actually, it's all about separation. It's all about separation. And then we all feel lonely and separate in this amazingly connected world, right? The
Right.
world, the world has never been more connected. So how come so many people feel disconnected?
Right. Because
Well, there's the
we're
irony.
yeah.
There's the irony, Phil.
Hmm.
There's the upside down and inside out, right? We've never ever been so connected.
In
So
the
it,
in
so
here in the left brain connection.
so it appears we've never been so connected. So
Right.
the problem that they've created is separation.
Right.
Direction from people is craving connection. So the solution is, let's stick a chip in your head, stick your thumb up your bum, and you're all going to be connected.
Yeah.
And actually, I think, well, it's too late, folks. That's too late. So because what that's actually going to create is more separation, because we're not craving that connection.
Right. Well, it's getting us more and more in our heads, more in only the left brain, which is potentially the dysfunctional side of the brain. If because of the way we eat, like the whole brain is connected to the heart, and the heart guides us. But we're in our heads, like we're focused on our devices, and we're fighting each other, and it's like this whole, and we think we're connected, but we're really not. We're not connected heart to heart with people.
We are so we are so disconnected, and the more educated people become, the more disconnected they become. Right. And actually, I went for a walk with a friend of mine, and we were talking about forest schools, and we spent about 2 hours walking around the woods yesterday. And I haven't done that for such a long time, and actually I felt really inspired, and I came home and started to write like a briefing for me, to start creating planning so I can actually use my old skills from being in the woods, and create a connection for people, so people can then come and hang out and connect with the trees, connect with the woods, connect with the plants, connect with each other, go barefoot, do meditations in the woods, talk to the trees, listen to the birds, spend time, listen, meditate,
Right.
talk. And it was like, oh wow, this is fab, because this is actually, yes, I'm into the health, yes, I'm into the raw food stuff, and yes, I'm into all that jazz, but actually that doesn't feed me like when I'm in the woods.
Right. And I think that's our mission. You and I, we're really aligned on that. It's like we want to reconnect people to the earth again. And the COVID reset, which has got nothing to do with the virus disease, I'm very solidly clear on that. It's got to do with, like, we've disconnected people. We're covering up our faces, which is critical communication devices. We're going more and more digital. That's the reset. And like, we want to go, we're going to take this opportunity right now, and we're going to reset back to Mother Nature's rhythm. And I think the more people we can turn on to Mother Nature's rhythm, we're going to reject this technocracy, this ridiculous situation. Like, we know we feel better. I don't know how many people I've hugged who have been like, wow, I haven't hugged anyone for months. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, how could you not like hug anybody for months? Like that's soul crushing. It's like, we need to hug, we need to interact, we need to touch each other, we need to see each other's faces and the interaction of each other. It's like we need to just be face to face in groups of people. And even if you're introvert or extrovert, I'm more introvert. I like to be around people, but not necessarily like in the midst of the group. I kind of like to be on the periphery, but I still need to be around people. So whether you're introvert or extrovert, and like we need to be around other people. We are community beings, and it's not going to work digitally. Like, it's great digitally, we can use this, but we need to create these gatherings, and we're going to have to do it in the fields, in the woods, and go for walks. And yeah, and I think people from that experience, maybe this is our mission, is like we're gonna reconnect and go, well, wait a minute, look at what's going on. This is the opposite of what we want.
and that Phil has just brought up my friend Will Lord. That he runs a site called Beyond 2000, and he's all about he's the caveman.
Mm-hmm.
But man, he is so grounded. Just he teaches like with animals, he teaches to use every single part.
Mm-hmm.
The sin, every part. He that's what he teaches people to use every
Right.
single. And he is so reverend in what he does. I don't care the fact that he eats animals or does that, because he does it with such reverence and such respect.
Right.
He's a complete diamond.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I mean, he does flint knapping, bow making. Um, I'll try and get him on again because I tried before.
Yeah.
But
See, I really, I so respect people like that, and it's like, because like I follow a couple of people on Facebook that are really into like the whole, hunting, but they do it with such reverence, and they connect with the animal, they connect with the earth, they use every bit of the animal and the oil, and they do all that stuff, and yet, like, and it's what's really fascinating is I see all of these like hardcore vegans who are really in their heads come out of the woodwork and attack these people. I'm just like, do you realize what you're attacking? Like, I get the whole like plant-based lifestyle, but if you're in your head and you're like eating, highly processed soy, and like you think that's good for you, and that's not good for the planet, and there's this person who's trying to live in alignment with the cycles, and they're, being reverent with the animal, they're actually more in tune with nature. They're more compassionate, actually. They're more compassionate than a hardcore vegan, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I as you know, Phil, I shot for years, and what was really interesting when I shot, and I used to be in the pub, I'd almost have identical conversations to when I'm vegan, and it's just like, well, hang on a minute. I had the same conversation when I shot things, and now we don't eat things. I'm having the same conversation, and I'm getting accused of the same thing, but differently. And it's like, wow. So I'd sit there, and that people would be obviously meat eaters, and telling me how wrong it was for me to kill an animal. And I'd be like, hang on a minute. So you're sitting there eating your steak, and it's wrong for me to
Oh,
shoot.
really? People said that to you?
Yeah. I shouldn't. It was wrong for me to shoot things. And I said, so it's wrong for me to shoot an animal to feed my animals, like my dogs or my ferrets or whatever it was. So that's wrong. Or to protect the crops, right? Or we'd shoot a squirrel, and then the squirrel would be fed to the ferrets. But that was to protect the trees. So we're protecting the trees and we're feeding the animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the squirrel tails would go off, and they'd use them in fly fishing to make flies to tie flies with. And but that was all wrong while they're sat there eating their steak. And I'm like, no, hang on a minute then. You're eating a house that's gone through you're eating an animal that's been raised inhumanely, that's gone through a slaughterhouse, that's been completely traumatized, and I've just shot something that's grown up peacefully in nature, and I've used all of it to feed something else, and
Right.
that's wrong. And it was done. No
Right.
trauma, done. So, and now I'm sitting there vegan. Oh, you got to eat meat. Same people, same people, not
Wow.
the same type of people, but the same people. So when I was shooting, that was wrong, and I shouldn't be doing it while they're eating their steak. Well, not while they're eating their steak, but while they were having a steak dinner, they were telling me I was wrong. So
Right.
I'm now sitting there with my green juice, my smoothie, my melon juice, my lemon water. Oh, you got to eat meat. No, you got. And it's like, wow, the
Yeah.
irony having been sat on two sides, well, the same side of the bloody table, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Same person, same people, same side of the table, same thing. You're wrong because you're not doing it basically because I'm not doing it the way that they think I should do it.
Well, I think that's the symptom of what's going on in today's world is, and we're going to break that. I think we're going to break it as we connect with nature. Is that right and wrong? Like that left brain, everything is black and white. There's only one right, and everyone else is wrong. Like this black and white, right, wrong, and then as we come out of that left brain, expand the whole brain consciousness into the heart, we see the shades of gray and the many shades of colors of like reality is not black and white. Reality is lots of different shades of and colors and tastes and flavors, and there's so much more richness. It's rich with variety and diversity and all those things.
So like you were saying, and I know you come from a family of butchers, so that's the irony with me and you. But it's I have so much respect for people that work. I don't have any respect for people that work with animals inhumanely.
Right.
No, but people that and people say, oh, you can't love them and eat them, or you can't love them and you can kill them. Of course you can.
Right.
Of course you can. It's just a different mindset. You can. I've had friends that have reared a lamb or a pig or something, and they couldn't kill it because they've got too attached to it. It's not about love; it's about attachment.
Right. Well, I have a friend who brought up goats, and he said that he cries every time, like he kills the goats sometimes, because he says he keeps when you keep goats in captivity, or he has a lot. He's in nature, in a really wild space. Is they kind of breed like crazy, and if you don't cull the herd, they can start to harm each other, and they get too much. So every so often he has to cull one of the herd, and he cries. He's in pain, and he cries, and he's it's like, but he's doing it, and then he processes it all and shares it with the community in the most harmonious way he can. So, and he's a really beautiful man who's in his heart. It's like someone could judge him as being, oh well, you're keeping animals and you're killing goats. It's like, no, he's just doing his best. He's like, he's really in his heart. So
you know what, Phil, that's really interesting that you're saying that, because some of the people that I've loved or loved the most have been people that kill animals, and actually they've been. The irony is, again, I like that word tonight, is they have so much compassion, and actually they have so much heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of unbelievable, and yet the vegan movement is lacking in heart and empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they're focused on is the cruelty.
Right.
They are. That something was said today, and I thought, wow, the vegans are focused on. They're actually focused on what's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and they're focused on cruelty. So, as long as you're focused on what's wrong and you're focused on the cruelty, where's the solution?
Right. They're in that pain. It's the exact thing. When you're in, whoa, my God, the analogy is great there, Phil. It's like today, what's happened in 2020 is everybody's in fight, flight, is in pain and focused on the problem and in fear of this virus that's going to be out to get them, or like, and the vegan movement, it's focused on, oh my God, these animals are dying and they're being destroyed, and it's like they're in that fight flight all the time instead of going, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? And there are many that do make changes. There are some great compassionate vegans, but as we know, Gabriel Cousins is totally an amazing compassionate vegan. He talks to these things, but he's not an angry vegan. He's not like attacking people,
Who was that, Phil?
Gabriel Cousins, just
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a big difference. Like, Gabriel, David Wolf, he's vegetarian. I think occasionally he'll have some ghee, but he's like doesn't eat animals, but he seems to me to be a compassionate being. Like, he thinks of all the different aspects, very respectful.
Yeah, respectful. And I think actually that's where we've got to be respectful, and we've got to give solutions. For farmers, for farmers not to be farmers isn't a solution. For farmers to get their slaughterhouses back on their farms, but they actually have to face it, because I think for lots of farmers that rear their animals, they love what they're doing, they love their animals, they send them off in the trucks, and it breaks their heart because they know what's going to happen, because they're not allowed to do what they used to do.
Right, which
They're
was,
not allowed
yeah,
to have their own slaughterhouse. They're not allowed to um, take what they need to and do what they need to do. They've got to send them all on trucks, and that's they're
that's
not.
the issue. Is that again? It's that disconnection energy that we're talking about. Is like, oh, we'll put the slaughterhouse out there. You know, we'll close it all off so nobody can see it,
Yeah,
and we'll take it away from the land. We're separating it. It's the separation that
yeah.
we're doing.
It's a
Like you
separate.
say,
Exactly. And what they've done now is they've created another problem because all of the animals in a certain area go to a certain slaughterhouse. So therefore, it's just David Rudlin.
I'm not. I don't know who it is. So we're
Well,
not.
I used to go to school with him.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't seen him for a long time, so I have no clue where his thoughts are on this now.
Well, yeah, we're kind of getting to the end of the show, I think. But
Is that going to be on mute, Phil, or what?
I think so. Yep, I think he's. Well, we'll just keep an eye on it. Right now, he's not showing anything, so we're good. We'll just get.
Okay, so David, welcome on the show. I haven't spoken to you for, I don't know how long, 20, 30, 40 years, I suppose. His granny, Phil, used to be my playgroup teacher,
Oh.
1972.
Wow.
Um, if that's the same David Rudden, I'm guessing it's got to be. So that's throwing me out then, Phil. Now, Phil, where
So
were
we were
yeah.
talking about this, the slaughterhouses, and we were talking about the connection that the farmers have, and we've separated that. We've separated the farmers from, from the slaughter and working with the animals and the whole. It's that separation. That's what you were talking about, I think.
Yeah, so and then that becomes so all the animals now in a region have become to these licensed slaughterhouses. So all the animals are now being taken on these massive trucks a long way from their families,
Mm-hmm.
which is traumatizing. And then of course they're on this massive conveyor belt that's there's no empathy, there's no sympathy, boom 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 boom. And when it was all done on the farm, it's a different thing. It
Mm-hmm.
then becomes the farmers connected, the animals haven't gone through all that trauma. It's it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, and those animals on these conveyor belt systems, kind of going back to the start of the call, was they have cancers, they have diseases, their bacterial balance is out of balance. They're really very, plus all the adrenaline and all the stress, and then people are eating these animals, they're eating these creatures that are just very, very, very unhealthy thing, as opposed to, a farmer who's worked with the animal and probably has, a garden as well and is growing food and, just works with those animals and does it in the timely thing and uses the whole animal. So again, it's the disconnection there. So
Totally. And that's that's the thing, isn't it? It's all, everything's become separated, isolated. All these problems have been created when actually, when it was done on it, everything was done on a small scale, right? Everything was done on a small scale. So once you scale anything up,
mm-hmm.
you've got a problem. So
Yeah.
we need to go back down. We need to slow it all down. We need to just go back to the old ways.
Yep.
And those of us that know we don't need to eat meat, we don't need to eat meat. But if people are going to eat meat, we need to get the, they need the best quality, and the animals need the best quality of life. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things my granddad always said to me about roadkill was, he said, "Oh no, you don't want to eat roadkill." And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Because it's full of stress.
Interesting.
When an animal gets hit by a car, the body is completely flooded with stress before
Interesting.
it dies. So when it goes on a truck to a slaughterhouse, the body is full of stress. So what you're eating with beef is stress and beef flavored piss, because the animal also floods their body with piss to break it down. So they're
Uric
using a
acid,
uric
right?
acid. They're using a uric acid to break the body down. So therefore, you've got stress and piss flavored beef, or beef and stress flavored piss, whichever way around it is.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at something that's hunted in the wild, that's hunted really well and really peacefully, there's none of the stress.
Right. Great.
And this, and this is what it's the stress. It's the stress it's horrendous.
Right. And you just like, it's just that analogy goes out to like the monopolies and the big corporations and these all the politicians making these big decisions about, okay, we're all going to go to electric cars, and it's like they have no connection to how that car was created, and or it was created in other countries. Like, again, it's like we've become too big that we can't even see like what's happening on the ground. So
Yeah, same. We're disconnected. And then I had a friend of mine, talking of that again, Phil, and going back to the goat thing. A friend of mine used to be a biodynamic dairyman and a herdsman, and with biodynamics, they always keep the horns on the cows. And I can't remember the exact figure, but somewhere around 38, when the herd gets over 38, they become socially dysfunctional.
interesting.
And then they horn each other. And then that's when the problem. So it's social behavioural issues. And that reminded me of another one with schools. Once a school gets over 300 children and over 30 children to a class, they become socially dysfunctional.
Wow.
And my sisters went to a school. Everyone that went to this school close to us, the secondary school, there was about 340 kids in, something like that, 3 to 350 children. And everyone I've ever spoken to that went to that school loved it. It was incredible. Now, I went to another school when that one closed down, and there was about 850 kids in that school. It was terrible.
What were the classroom sizes there?
About 30. But it's just I went from a village school that had about 80 children to a secondary school of 850. And for me, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
But so again, you've got all this social discord because the numbers are too great, and that's why little villages worked. Once you get towns, they don't work because you've got social discord.
Right, and then the bigger the town, the more you need police forces to keep it under control, and the more you need controls and regulations, and it just
if you live in a small village like I did, you can't do anything without your dad finding out. and if your dad didn't give you a smack round here, someone else's dad gave you a smack round here. And then if your dad found out that someone else gave you a smack round here, you had another one.
Right.
Because number one, you got caught, and then you've disrespected the family, right?
Yep.
And of course, as everything's got bigger, that doesn't happen.
Yep. You lose control of it.
You lose control. Therefore, you need more police and more control. And actually, it's the same with the farms. You lose control, then you need more control, and on it goes. And actually, they farmed very well throughout the civilized world with small farms. Well, Phil, that feels like a rant done, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like, what a show.
What a show.
Louise, do you have any questions there?
Oh, yeah, Louise, got any questions?
We appreciate you coming on and joining us. Our one top fan there.
And staying.
Yes, he stayed the whole time. I'm proud of you.
The whole time. David was on and
Off
off.
on our rant.
Got any questions in the type box, Lou?
She's off in the kitchen making a cup of tea.
I think she's probably making a cup of tea, yeah.
All right, great. Well, this has been a great show. We appreciate everybody who's watching on Facebook or afterwards on YouTube, and we thank you.
Yeah, it's been great to get a voice to all of these aspects, thoughts, sharing it with you, Phil, and then bouncing off of you and sharing it with people that want to listen and want to know. And at the end of the day, this is just our opinion. It's Phil's opinion, and it's my opinion. It's not fact. It's not true. It's just our thoughts. We sit here, we share them. You know, that's the aim is to have
Right.
In-depth conversations, discussions, and to get other people on to share their views.
Right. And I think we need to be able to have this healthy discussion. So a great analogy from today is like we're, people who are, eat a plant-based diet, but we're able to talk about, eating meat. And I think that's what we've lost in society is like we've got this right left. And I think we want to have these healthy discussions. We want to encourage others to have a healthy discussion and not say I'm right and you're wrong. It's like, well, let me listen to what you have to say and let's work together and grow together. So
yeah, and and how can we have a better version of what we've got?
Right.
That's for me, that's always the thing. Compared to what? It's terrible compared to what?
Mm-hmm.
Or bad compared to what? It's like this is what we've got to remember is if we think something's really bad, how can we then make that better? How can we then do a better version of that? And then how can we do a better version of that? And then how can we do a better version of that? And that's what we've got to do is encourage people to be doing better versions of what they're doing in order to get the result that we think is better.
Right. And I think, our opinion is like, we're going to come to those insights when we connect with nature, when we eat a healthy diet. Like that's our thing but that's when the answers are going to start flowing is when we reconnect with each other, with nature, with the nutrition we put in our bodies. So
definitely. Well, Phil, we can go on about that anyway.
Yeah.
So we can just carry on because it feels like that's the next flow coming. So we'll just.
So if you love this show, please go to philandphil.com and you're welcome to make a donation so it can pay for the website and so Phil can buy a new microphone.
So Phil, I bought a new microphone. Phil needs a new microphone.
Yep.
So we can just upgrade and keep doing our best to be the best version of ourselves and to create the show to be the best version of the show. And it takes time, effort, money, and we're learning. We're learning about ourselves, we're learning about each other, we're learning about this dynamic, and we're learning about live streaming and YouTubing.
Yep. So thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Watching.
Bye.
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 Stop live stream.